Well, hello, brothers and sisters in Christ. It's Pastor Mike. It is the 11th of January in 2021, and this is the weekly check-in. Hopefully, your weekend went well. You continue to enjoy this new year to the best of your ability, and that you're staying safe and healthy, and so on. Today, I'm recording because I was doing my morning devotions and I ran across something interesting, and it really sparked some stuff in my mind, and so that's what I'm going to focus on in the check-in. It was a guy writing about an individual named Brother Lawrence. He was not even necessarily a monk. He was, kind of a lay individual that was at a monastery, an interesting Christian in the late 1600s in France. Interesting guy. Had an interesting life before he went in, but he eventually had an experience of God and wanted to dedicate his life. It was interesting because if I remember right, as I was reading the devotion, he saw a barren winter tree. It's interesting as I look out, there is a tree that's a little bit barren out there. And yeah, you probably have some in your front yard. And as he looked on it, he saw the coming of God's grace and life. He knew that that tree was not in its final and permanent state, that as things moved, life would bloom in it again. And he was overwhelmed by that grace, that patience, that love of God, that every year that the trees, when looking to be dead, would, when the time is right, gain new life. For him, that was in the resurrection, but also in the present day. That there are moments of dead seasons, if you will, like winter, but they give way to the spring and the resurrection of Christ. It's a good thing to remember right now. What a good individual to remind us of that. This is a hard season in many ways. We can feel like a barren tree, but God is not done. God is working on his time frame to get us again to bloom and to grow and to bring new life. And that is the nature of cycles and seasons in the church, in the world, with our kids, with all of those things. There are barren fields out there, but they're not done. God will plant and sow and it will grow because that's what God does. That, I think, is one of the first great lessons, something to give you a lens as we continue to begin this year, that the tree is not done. The second was that even as I read some more about his life, he was a fascinating guy. He, in his work, was just a cook. He didn't do anything especially amazing. He did some of the most basic, mind-numbing, horrible work around that place for the community. And he was overjoyed to do it. He was not a proud man. He was an individual who demonstrated humility. And in the demonstration of the humility, he was able to see the presence and love of God in basic tasks, and the ability to spread the love of God in basic, simple tasks. Not grand gestures, nothing over the top, no brilliant, perfect sermons, but through feeding his brothers. That's what he did. And it was amazing. It was amazing because he was a rough and ready individual, is maybe the terms. He was a little uncouth about things. And I think when he first joined up with that crew, they were a little taken aback. Not the polished holy man that they were hoping for. But when they got past that rough exterior, they found that humility, that compassion, that care. And he was well loved. In fact, as he became more of a permanent fixture there, and with the grace and love of the simple tasks he did, he would have people come to visit and just talk, and he would share just their joys and their sorrows in humble ways, this Brother Lawrence. And it was amazing because people would experience the grace of God in him and through him in humble tasks. It was quite impressive. And that, brothers and sisters, is also something I think that we need to remember. We, as God's people, are given numerous gifts. Some of them may seem simple, but through them, like Brother Lawrence can show us, we can show the presence of God and find the presence of God there. We can find God's joy and peace in simple things. And when we tap into that reality, it echoes throughout our existence to the people we know, we love, we care for, and we might encounter, just like it did for Lawrence. People could sense that he saw God there, and thus they could too. That's a great gift, because sometimes in this state we feel like we are limited in what we can do, but in some ways we're not. We still have the ability to do the simple things. And if we can find the joy in those simple things, I think we will see God, and so will our neighbors. I mean, maybe right now you're watching, your kids or grandkids. And that is good, it is right, it is holy. And if you can find the presence of God even just sitting with those littles, that'll be good. Because I will tell you this, if you see the presence of God there, you will inspire in them a love for God greater than anything else. Better than I could ever do. Hopefully you can find the simplicity in maybe household chores, maybe in a project, and the peace and the presence of God and God's work, God's creation, and God's love in that. And in many ways, that's so great because that's what Christmas is about. The incarnation, the Epiphany, all those things. Is that God shows up in the simple. A simple child in a manger. He shows up in water to cleanse us and set us free. He shows up in bread and wine, some of the most simple staples of Jesus' age. He used those to feed, to care, to ground us. It was no grand feast. It was bread and it was wine. And he is present. Remember that, brothers and sisters. In the simple, we can live out our prayers to God and hear his answers echo through them. Well, that's what I got today, brothers and sisters. Just really struck me, and I wanted to share some of the things I discovered about that interesting individual. Above all, I hope you're staying healthy. I hope things are going well. But at this moment, I hope some of the things that you've been doing might be a little bit boring or less than exciting. Don't view them as such. Take a moment to see Christ's incarnate presence in the little things. And may that be that little candle showing the light of Christ to people who might be in a dark place. Because soon and very soon, if you pay attention, maybe squint your eyes a little bit, soon you will see the buds of new life on the trees around us. Blessings, brothers and sisters in Christ. Talk to you soon. Bye now.